I think we do have to take a step back and look at the big picture and say, one thing that the darker that things get, the one thing that I come back to, especially recently, especially just over the past week, really, is that only perfection exists. And like, as hard as that is to see sometimes, like sometimes, we might have seen it 10 years ago, but other people, they had reasons to stay invested in the fake system and in the fake matrix. And I think, we're reaching a point where it has to get worse before it gets better. And I'm almost happy every time it gets a little worse because it forces those people that didn't want to admit I was right and you were right to go, you know what? I'll swallow my fucking pride, admit these people were right because I'm done with this shit. I know that's a
Yeah,
super
man.
optimistic way of looking at it, but at the same time, I feel that's kind of where we're at. Like we're on the precipice of that. Like people are, I think mentally and like in an unspoken way, they've already admitted we're right. They're like, God, I wish I didn't have to admit that these people were right because they were so fucking uh what's the word I'm looking for? I don't it's not the word aggressive, but we were, we were sure of ourselves. Let's put it like that. We've been certain of the way we
Always
feel.
have.
And
Always have. Yep.
I feel like that, and as much as I don't like to say it, I feel like that is part of the reason that turned a lot of people off is because we come off as arrogant or cocky to them when it's like if you just looked, you wouldn't see that it's arrogance or
Yeah, but they
cockiness or
can't.
whatever.
But they can't. But that's the thing. They can't see.
Right.
And at some point, G, when you continue to when these folks continue to get passes and continue to be the loud voices and continue to just we keep giving them the benefit of the doubt because ignorance is bliss and all of these other things, you end up here in 2021 though. You see what I'm saying? You end
Yes,
up
but the, but
here.
but my but
And
my point is maybe we needed to end up here to get some of those people to go, okay, it's time to quit fucking around. It's time to quit giving them
hey,
the benefit of the doubt.
yeah, that's fine. You can quit fucking around, but if it's too late, what does it matter if you quit fucking around and you already done had 3 4 jabs now? What's the point? Quit fucking around if you've already had a close to 100 million people lose their jobs because they are trying to make a conscientious and smart, might I add, decision for their body and their longevity of their DNA and biogenetics. But the other folks, we kept giving them passes and we kept being optimistic about them waking up one day, and now here we go. So at some point, I totally hear and feel what you're saying. And yes, you're right. It unfortunately might have to go this direction for those people to wake up. But if by the time you wake up, you didn't already, you know, you already 80% down shit's creek. I mean, what does it? I mean, and what cost? And maybe what you're saying is right. Maybe that is the cost. Maybe the cost is it's going to have to get like this for it to be that way. But I just say, hey, this is what we've been. This is where we get
Yes, and that's what
when
we were
we
talking about last night.
continue.
This is what we've agreed to as a
Yeah,
collective. This is what we agreed to, and I think although people like you and me, I feel like we bring facts and we have a lot of good points. I do feel like it's kind of our responsibility to be a little humble at right now because it's so obvious that we're right. I see a lot of conspiracy people online just like fuck you. It's so clear we're right. Yeah, like y'all need to get with the fucking program. Y'all are stupid. Y'all are sheep, and that ain't the way to get people to admit that they're wrong. um, it's like I totally feel where you're coming from, but I also want to caution that I feel like our tone, the people that are obviously right, the conspiracists, whatever you want to call us, uh, I think it's important for us to tone it down a little bit and just to treat everybody with a little bit of human decency, even if they're trying to dehumanize us as being unvaccinated. I think I think
Well,
it's better
Biden,
to be the bigger man, even though that's like a corny saying or whatever. But I think it
I,
is an instance where it is better
I,
to just
I
be the
do hear
bigger
you.
man.
I do hear you. Biden's speech today was directed directly toward us and directed toward people who aren't on board with this directly. No, there's no way around it. There's no more hiding it. He literally are putting us under attack. Now, we can continue to look, man. I'm all for that, G. But at some point, like I've always thought about, and this is a slightly decent analogy here. Um, like I've always thought about, how long were black folks gonna get beat over the back in the '60s, and before they realized maybe we need to not just keep marching so peacefully. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand it's time to tone it down. I understand where you're coming from, but the toning down is what gets. Yes, I totally understand that, man. But I'm just saying, tone. People have sacrificed and caused and people have sacrificed a lot because they have taken that approach. And look, I'm not saying I know exactly what needs to happen and how it needs to happen, but I can tell you one thing: look at what's happening. So if we see what's happening, you see the train running down the tracks, you know ain't no brakes on it. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're not. I mean, I don't. Today
I,
was interesting because today was like, man, I really just said, yo, winter's coming,
I really
and then
do.
boom.
I want to again. I gotta balance out what I just said now because I gotta emphasize that I really do feel you. Like when I hear the shit, it makes something in my stomach and my soul churn. And like my initial reaction is like, let's just kill all these motherfucking vaccine mandate people and then we don't have to worry about them. But that's their mentality. That's me reflecting their mentality back at them. I think we need to rise above that and just kind of, you know, silently smirk back at them. Just kind of be a mirror, like look at them like, do you hear yourself? Like, don't even say anything. Just kind of look at them like, do you actually hear what you're saying right now? Like, I don't know, man. I get where you're coming from because that's my initial gut reaction is like, fuck these people. But I think the only way to get anybody, I'm not going to say we're going to get everybody to see the truth. But I think the route to take to get the most possible people to see the truth is to just be respectful and loving and keep that tone and intention of love and there might be some people out here that it's hard for me and you to believe, but there might be some people out here that just really never were exposed to the information you know I don't know. It seems like that's impossible in the age of the internet, but
Yeah,
I
I
try.
mean, look, we can.
I don't.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say I try to give them the benefit of the doubt because it's clear that the people that are making these decisions, they don't have the benefit of the doubt with me anymore. But just regular people, especially older people in our generation or younger, and if they're pushing for the mandates and all that, like kind of fuck them because they know what they're doing. But older people who I feel like are truly tricked, and even maybe some younger people like out in the country and they don't have access to the internet or something. But I'm just saying, man, every single individual case is its own. You don't know what people know, you don't know what people's stories is, and I think ultimately you just got to trust your gut, trust your intuition. I think, yeah, there's people out here that I will not give the benefit of the doubt to. Like they're bad vibes and I don't know really how to handle them other than, hope that God takes care of them. Uh,
Right.
but I also feel like there are a lot of people that somehow, some way are still tricked. And I know for me, people like me and you, it's hard to believe that anybody could be tricked in this age of information. But I
Yeah, because
do
G, at
think
this
there, I
point,
do
it's
think there
really going to
are.
take the people. It's really going to take the people. They're going to continue the bullshit on the news. They're going to continue to make it. They're going to continue to create the narrative. They're going to
Right.
continue to do what is expected to do on the television screen, on the
Right.
social media, depending
But
on
that's,
what outlets you follow.
but
So
that's my
at
point.
some point, the anger can't be it can't the energy can't be aimed at them. They're gonna do what they do. It's up to the people to see through it at some point.
Right.
At
And
some
but that's
point,
my point,
because we
James,
know
is
they're gonna
that,
do what they do.
but that's my point, James, is that as people, as quote unquote people, as non-politicians, your average citizen, so to speak. I don't think anybody's truly average or normal. I don't think either one of those words ever really meant anything, and we're seeing that more clearly now. But the whole point of saying all that is you're just making my point, is that the people that are still buying into the narrative, that they're having there's more and more opportunities where the belief system is getting cracked open, because things are happening every day where people that are locked into that matrix, things are happening that are making them go, this is, something's weird, this shit ain't right. And I think that's why it's important, and to get back to my whole point, I think it's important to maintain a tone that exudes calmness and confidence and um, contentedness is the word I was looking for. Because my biggest problem, and we kind of brushed on this topic last night, but I really like. I really don't fuck with a lot of the conspiracy community, especially on Twitter. Like, there's just a lot of angry voices, and like, who wants to listen to that? You know what I mean? Like, I
Well,
get where your anger is
I
coming
talked
from,
about that.
but
Right.
you gotta like be able to deal with it in a way that when you express yourself about it, you're not turning people away. You know what I mean? I think that's I think a lot of people buy into the mainstream shit just because they don't want to be like these crazy conspiracy people. You know what I mean? And I feel
Mm,
like there's some
I do.
validation, there is some validity to that, because a lot of there's a lot of Alex Jones type personalities in the conspiracy community. There's a lot of egos in the conspiracy community. It's just an observation of mine.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you're dealing with the level of shit that we are dealing with, I do see how some people could get irritated with the I'm going to try not to call them sheep for once and just say the people that can't see,
Right.
the unseen people. Uh, so I do feel you and understand, level of maturity and this, that, and the third, and I understand that. At the same token, this isn't a work office. This is life, and this is there's a lot of things unfolding here, as we know, and there's a lot of things at play here, and um, for it to even for it to continue to reach even closer and closer to home, and for it to continue to grow and grow to be more obvious, and as you can literally continue to see the goalposts get pushed farther and farther back, it it I think it allows people to really move to another level within themselves about all of this, you know. And I will be interested to see, as I observe a lot of things um, over the coming weeks and months, but I will be interested to see if what I think will happen is going to happen. I think people will continue to submit. I think they will be passive. I think they will roll over. I think they will continue to be divided and divisive. And I think that nobody will come together for the greater cause to even stop this from happening. They're going to be too busy bickering. Biden has already set the precedent that this is a unvax versus vax situation with their fake ass variants that they continue to talk about. Okay, so we already see what narrative is being painted here based off of that weak speech he gave. And I think that it just will be very interesting to see how this unfolds, where the energy is going, how it's directed, you know, how much further will the split be, you know, all of those things are going to be interesting to observe. Because if we know what we know, which that is what this is all about, division, and so many more things that we talk about often, then what I see this being driving a deeper wedge into the whole thing.
But what's the solution? I mean, my whole thing is I really, we talked about the listening thing yesterday. I really do feel you. Like I feel you because I come from that perspective. So I actually like totally agree with you on a certain level. But how do we like my thing is I don't want to remain at that level. So how do we, as participants in the matrix, you know, even if our decisions and our words, you know, might seemingly mean very little, you know, in one moment, but what, you know, what my whole point is, what can we do, like, as people that, you know, we exist, you know, like that's my whole thing is like responsibility and agency. Like we exist, we're a part of this whole thing. And so I'm not just going to accept the things that you're talking about that seem inevitable in a lot of ways. And that's why I feel you. And I agree that the things that you're saying need to be brought up in the way that you're bringing them up. Because I have felt that way about it too. But I also think it's just a necessary step toward a whole different level of responsibility and agency and seeing ourselves as like, what is our role in all of this? Like, what did we do to contribute to all of this? And maybe it's very minimal, but even if that's the case, then we have to learn how we got put in this place to be so marginalized, I guess would be the best word. Like, why don't we matter more? We should. Everybody's voice should matter just as much as anybody else's voice.
I think we're already doing these things. G. I think we're refusing to go along with it. We're speaking about it on a forum, on a platform. We walk it and talk it for the most part. I mean, there's always things that I know that I could get better at with certain things, but we said many months ago, there's a hard stop with certain things, and this was one of them. We're already doing our part. I'm not saying that that's it. It needs to obviously go farther, but when you start to talk about going farther, unless you have some crazy platform with a lot of followers, or you're plugged in, or your pockets are deep, you have to come together as a collective to really shift anything. As massive as all of this is, you have to come together as a collective. Individually, what are you going to do individually? You're going to get trampled out here.
Right.
You're going to get trampled. You're going to get tossed in the crazy house. You're probably going to get blackmailed. Who knows how long? I mean, do they even really care? Like I said, you have to have a massive following and a lot of other criteria to even become a real problem anyway, you know?
Right.
Because if you truly want to become a problem without having a following, now you're just a crazy person. So it's nothing. Nobody's listening to you. Get tossed away, and nobody's thinking about you for the rest of your days. I mean, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly not banking on going about it that way and saying, oh, well, hopefully, somebody can see the injustices that I'm facing right now by speaking my truth and will come along and write a story about it. And then maybe in 10 or 15 years, when I've been fucked up in here for so long, somebody will talk about how this guy ended up in here. And then 15 or 20 years from now, I'll be the face of some fucking movement that's going to get politicized anyway. No, thank you. You either come together and move as a unit, or I don't know. I don't have the answer. But you see what's happening, G. What's next? What's the next length of the goalpost after you make 100 million people lose jobs? And not saying unemployment is the answer, because it's not. But you let that many people go, that many people decide to choose to walk away. If they do, because here's the other thing. Maybe that's the straw where people say, you know what, I am going to go get it at this point. Now that demographic that could potentially make change has given in.
Right.
No matter how much shit is presented to them about, oh, what are you going to take boosters for the rest of your life, or what are you going to you're going to comply, and then what? The goal, you know what I'm saying? Like this is a conundrum of epic proportions, because there is so many. If you inputted it into a program, I'm sure it would spit out that there's a million. A computer program would probably spit out that there's a million different scenarios at play here.
Right. I just, this is the balancing act, and I always try to look at the other side of anything. And man, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm already crazy, and I don't really give a fuck what people think about me. And so I gotta just say that, like, the worse it gets, I mean, I'm sure people are probably picturing me as like the Joker right now or something, but like, the worse it gets, the better I feel. Like, I know personally I'm never giving into the vaccine mandate. I know I'm solid as fuck. I know I'm the truth. So why should I even worry about anything that goes on around me? The whacker it gets around me, the more I'm gonna shine. Like, I already know that I'm the shit. So like, it kind of helps me that everything's getting worse, because it just makes me look that much better. It makes everything that I've been saying the last 12 years look more on point. It makes me look like the sane one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm actually really happy about the way things are going, as crazy as that might sound to some people.
Well, you might be on to something, G. You might be on to something, man. I can tell you what, like I said, our mindset is